Hey everybody, Sean here from VidGamiac.com. Here we are today back in Overwatch's Retribution event, going for the Clean Getaway achievement. This one's going to be available to do whenever the mission is going to be available in the arcade. This is to beat it on story mode on expert difficulty or higher without anyone on your team dying. Obviously going to recommend it on the easier of the two difficulties, so doing it on expert, obviously. You are going to be limited to the story mode characters, so make sure you take your pick from either Reaper, McCree, Genji, or Moira. And we're basically going to hop in and we're going to stick to the same strategy we pulled on Legendary. So things are going to start out. You're going to pop the bomb on the door, and then everyone's going to get back to the spawn room, and we're going to hold out here. You can refer to our Legendary guide for a more detailed look at this, but basically we are going to repeat every strategy we used in that with a few tweaks, because obviously we need to do this without dying. But then also, obviously, this is going to be done on a lower difficulty, so we have that to look forward to. So thankfully, the beginning is going to be very straightforward. Everyone's going to stay in the spawn room and then use the front door as a bottleneck, and then occasionally we're going to poke our head out the left door to check if that door is currently under attack. But as long as everyone stays here and sticks to the basic strategy of Reaper taking the front point with the major damage, McCree hanging back and popping criticals, Moira taking advantage of the tight room to bounce her healing orbs to efficiently heal everyone, and of course the Genji player taking advantage of his super duper useful deflect, you should be able to hold the room super duper easy, and it's going to be a 4 to 5 minute slog through this. Thankfully, in story mode, there aren't going to be any specials that appear during the breach segment, so you just have to hold out against the two basic types of enemies, and you're just going to power through this the best you can.
Allow me to repair the damage. Pity we missed the masquerade. I have the perfect costume.
Didn't think that would be your scene.
There's a lot of things you don't know about me. This will heal you.
The enemy approaches.
This will restore you. I'm under attack. Get into position. Allow me to repair the damage.
We're making progress on the door. How's everyone doing?
Couldn't be better.
Just grand here.
Dropping from above.
This will restore you.
Don't move.
This will heal you.
So hopefully everyone stayed together and survived the breach segment without dying. Then what you want to do is you want to make sure you have someone approach the door once it blows. Make sure they go through up to the point where the enemies start spawning, and then everyone's going to pull back into the room. You only want the Genji player to be up front at this point. They're going to use their deflect to try to hold back that initial blast of enemies, and then everyone's going to take up positions by the sides of the door and then take advantage of the bottleneck that is going to be the entryway. Take advantage of McCree's stun grenades in order to wipe out that initial set of enforcers, and then once it's safe, the Genji player is going to go outside to spawn in the first special in the form of the sniper. Now, whenever you are doing a no-death run on this mission, you are going to need to rely on a really good Genji player, as the McCree ultimate and the Reaper teleport aren't going to be great tools with dealing with the sniper because of the high risk. So whenever the Genji player has their deflect available, they're going to use it to try to bait the sniper into a position where she is going to be straight ahead of the door. And then what the Genji player is going to do is they're going to let their deflect recharge. Then they're going to run out and they're going to use it to try to reflect the sniper's shot back at her. If the Genji player cannot kill her, he's going to quickly dash back into the room and then get back to cover. The sniper is never going to breach the vault door, so everyone's going to hang back around the corners right here. Moira's going to do her best job in order to try to pick the Genji back up until he gets another deflect back. Then once he does, he's going to head back outside and either try to pull the sniper back into a favorable position or use it to finish her off outright. The other players are only going to engage with the sniper if it's absolutely safe to do so, but honestly, it's not worth the risk, so make sure you are very careful whenever trying to deal with the snipers, as they are going to be the major obstacle on these no-death runs. So just make sure everyone is back here, super safe, and then hopefully the Genji player can take out the sniper a-okay. If you are going to take a risk in trying to take her out, I'm going to recommend the Genji player distract her, and then the Reaper player use his teleport in order to take her out from far behind. Make sure you do not rely on McCree's ultimate to try to hit her, as it's going to take a very long time to charge up, and it's going to leave the McCree player in a very vulnerable spot. McCree is always going to hang back whenever there is a sniper, and he's going to pick off normal enemies from far away to keep everyone safe as they are trying to distract her. Once the sniper is finally dealt with, everyone's going to make it back out onto the street. Everyone's going to round the corner and then just hang back on this corner and then take out all of the enforcers and all of the regular enemies that move up. Make sure no one moves past the archway quite just yet, as we are going to deal with the enemy waves one at a time. So once you finally clear the streets, we're going to push up to the archway. That's going to cause the first spawn of enemies. It's going to usually be the guys who bust out of the building in the background through the door, as well as the first dropship. So make sure you try to get the door guys out first, and then try to thin them out before the dropship can get here. Once the dropship gets here, it's going to unload a lot of enforcers. McCree can use his ultimate here to try to take out a bulk of them, and then once the rest of them come out, you are going to basically fall back. Make sure you fall all the way back to the corner, and that should get them moving in a straight line, and then you can pick them off one at a time. So we're just going to pull them all the way back the best we can. Once they're dealt with, we're going to move up very slowly. That should get the boat guys to appear. What's also going to happen is another sniper is going to drop down. Everyone except the Genji is going to hang back here and then try to pull the enforcers away from the Genji, so make sure you use that corner bottleneck to try to thin them out. Genji is going to hop into the window above the arch, and he's going to use his deflection to hopefully deflect the sniper bullet. It's a big open area, so you should land the shot rather easily here compared to the last sniper. And then once she's dealt with, just make sure you mop up everyone else at the docks, and then we should be free to move up. So once it's safe, we're going to push further up and then head over to the building. Make sure everyone gets healed up all the way right here in this nice little dead zone. Once you get to the building, make sure you clear out all of the enemies inside before going in. Once it's empty, make sure you head inside. Then they're going to breach the windows and the doors. As soon as that happens, everyone's going to pull back outside, taking the same door that you just went through. And then we're going to use this door as a bottleneck to try to thin them out. Now, once you take out the initial wave of breachers, you're going to get another sniper spawn. Thankfully, on expert difficulty, it's only going to be one sniper, so it's not going to be the double sniper. She's going to start out by spawning on the balcony on the other side of the bridge. Everyone's going to dip out and then hide behind the corners near the door. Now, our goal for the next spot is to try to get the sniper into the building onto the second floor, which is going to be the best spot to try to take her out from. So you want to make sure you have the Genji player go into the building whenever he has his deflect, and he's going to try to bait the sniper into the building. It might be a little tough. Everyone else is going to keep an eye out on the door. If you notice the sniper laser go through, you want to make sure you try to find a blind spot, which is going to be either corner of the door, depending on where she is. So thankfully the sniper is never going to come outside, so we can take our time in order to try to pull her up. Remember, the Genji is only going to move up whenever he has his deflect ready, and then everyone else is going to stay back in the doorway, away from the sniper laser, and then just pick off the normal enemies in the building to ensure that it's safe for the Genji to pass through. So once the Genji is ready, and once the sniper is in that favorable spot, which is going to be that second floor balcony, he is going to go inside, use that deflect, and then bounce the sniper's bullet back at her, and hopefully that should eliminate her, and then we should be free to take the building. Make sure everyone clears the street dead ahead, and then everyone's going to come to a stop at the middle of the bridge. You're going to want to take out any enemies who are going to be pouring out of this archway, but the Reaper player is going to want to move up into the square to trigger the next special cutscene, which is going to be the first assassin. Now, as soon as the cutscene's over, Reaper is going to use his teleport to get back to the group, and then everyone's going to run back through the building and then back to that safe spot next to the front door. We are basically trying to pull the assassin away from the normal enemies. During this time, everyone is going to want to stay in a big group. The reason for that is if the assassin jumps on someone, you want to make sure everyone melees her quickly off before she can kill them. Then everyone's just going to gang up on her, take advantage of McCree's stun grenade the best you can. If the Genji player has his ultimate, it's going to best be saved for assassins, since you can't really use it on the other enemies really well without getting close to them. So make sure you do use any Genji ultimates on assassins, and that way we can take her out super duper quickly. Then we're just going to clear the enemies that are going to spawn behind her. Again, use that doorway as a bottleneck, and then once you thin out the crowd enough, it's time to push up back to the bridge, and then we can finally make our crossing into the square. Be very careful once you get to the archway. Just make sure you stay back here and then watch the side buildings, as they can get a little tight with someone sneaking up on you. Once you capture the square, we're going to come to a stop right here. We're going to do the same thing as we just did, this time with the third type of special. Make sure you have the Reaper player run ahead and then head to the front of the museum. That's going to trigger the next cutscene where we spawn in the Heavy. And then as soon as we spawn in the Heavy, we're going to have the Reaper teleport back to the group. And then as a group, everyone's going to book it back to the spawn room. So it's going to be another long journey, but this is probably going to be the best way of dealing with the Heavy, super far away from where he spawns in, and then somewhere where we can use a nice little strategy in order to deal with him. So have everyone use their mobility abilities the best they can, and then just try to get to the original spawn room. Thankfully, there are no enemies along the way, so we don't have to worry about that. So just have everyone stick together, and everyone should make it there safely. Once everyone rendezvous back at the spawn area, you're going to want to have the McCree player head up to the left side balcony. It's going to be the right side facing the exit, and he's going to need to have his ultimate. So if he doesn't have his ultimate, you want to make sure he waits by the door and then takes out enemies to fill it up. But once he gets his ultimate, he's going to get into this position. Everyone else is going to hang out by the door and then take out the enemies as they come through. Thankfully, you do have that vault door as a bottleneck. And again, if McCree doesn't have his ultimate, you're going to have the other players feed him kills until he does. And then once he does, he's going to get up here. In the meanwhile, everyone else is going to be keeping an eye for when the Heavy is going to round the corner and then start pushing towards the spawn area. And then once he does, everyone is going to get into their positions. So you're going to have everyone by the door split into two groups. One side is going to fall back to the spawn room, and then you're going to have another group try to pull the Heavy away from the McCree, so the opposite balcony basically. Once the Heavy has his back to the McCree player is going to use their ultimate. Try to charge it up the best you can, and then try to aim for the critical spots on the Heavy's back. A successful McCree ultimate should take the Heavy down from anywhere from a quarter to half of his health, and then we're going to use our triangle strategy to basically pull the Heavy's attention away from whoever he is firing at. So basically everyone's going to take turns pulling the Heavy towards their direction, and then using this triangle, we should be able to take the Heavy down pretty efficiently. Make sure all three groups are going to be super careful here, and everyone is going to dip into cover whenever under super heavy fire. Make sure no one gets super greedy here, and you should be good for taking out the Heavy. Even though he is going to go down way quicker on Expert than Legendary, he is going to still pack a punch if you aren't careful. Once you finally take him out, everyone's going to drop back down onto the main floor, and we're going to clear out the building and also heal everyone back up to full health. Then we're going to slowly push our way back out onto the streets. The streets should now be littered with normal enemies, but you can take your time moving up and then take them out one at a time. There shouldn't be too many, and there shouldn't be a huge group that is going to hold us back. So as long as you aren't rushing through them, you should be able to make your way back to where we were earlier. Now, on your way back to the front of the museum, you're going to need to have the McCree player get his ultimate back, so you should have plenty of opportunities to score kills to fill that back up, so nothing too bad to worry about. So just make sure you have the McCree player score some kills, and then hopefully he gets his ultimate by the time everyone rendezvous at the front door of the museum. Once you are here, you're going to want to take out the initial wave of enemies who are currently in the museum. So just hang back here at the front door and then make sure you take them out from this bottleneck. Then what you want to do once the museum is initially cleared is you want to have the Reaper player move up. Then he's going to get the repelling enemies to drop down. He's going to use his teleport to pull away. And then while he's doing that, McCree is going to use his ultimate to take out all of the enforcers. Make sure you have the team quickly line up in a big stack. That way, when the assassin drops after taking out that group, you can quickly melee her off whoever she pounces on, and then we're going to try to quickly finish her off. So again, make sure you take advantage of McCree's stun grenade and Genji's ultimate, and she should go down super duper quickly. Make sure you get everyone back up onto their feet, and then make sure you finish the rest of the guys in the museum. Then we're just going to book it for that far door, so everyone's just going to run through. Once all 4 people make the crossing through those back doors, the museum is going to shut, allowing us to skip fighting the rest of the indoor enemies. Now everyone should be in the final area, and everyone's going to book it to the back left and then hit up the Jesus room, and then we're going to hunker down here for the first 2 waves. So thankfully, this last room is going to be super duper easy to hold, as it's going to have a lot of blind spots to avoid snipers. It's going to be very easy to isolate assassins from here, and you do have a nice convenient bottleneck in the form of this door to deal with the bulk of the normal enemies. The Moira player is also going to get the most out of her healing here, since you are in a tight quarter, and her health orb is going to get some good bounce to it, so thankfully you can pick people up rather quickly. Once the enemies start popping up, what you want to do is you want to make sure you try to pull them through. You have 2 lanes to work with. You have the staircase going to the right, and then you have the front steps right here. As you can see, it's going to be very easy to pull people forward. Make sure you have that Genji player take point and use his deflect, and then Reaper and McCree are going to stand back and then blast from far away. You can also take advantage of Moira's ultimate, which is going to have a nice straight line to work with, thankfully. And remember, Moira's ultimate is also going to heal anyone who passes through the beam on your team, so you have that to look forward to as well. That being said, make sure you are staying vigilant and just don't stay in the main doorway the whole time, as once the specials pop up, you are going to have to deal with them. Once you take out the initial enemies, the best position to deal with both types of specials is to have 2 players on either side of the room behind the corner of the door. If you are working with an assassin, once she comes in and pounces on someone, you do have someone to try to punch them off. Thankfully, the room is going to be the perfect range for McCree's stun grenade, so you can have the McCree throw a stun grenade across the room without leaving the blind spot. Now, as for dealing with the sniper, you are going to want to have the Genji player try to bait her onto one of the 2 pillars directly in front of the Jesus room. This way, you can use the other players to have their backs towards either one of the 2 side walls, which are going to be a nice blind spot from the sniper. And then whenever the Genji player has his deflect up, he's just going to head into the doorway, put up his deflect, and then hopefully he can take out the sniper rather quickly. Everyone else is going to hang back and then basically try to watch the Genji and then try to take out any enemies who are going to be pushing. So the person on the left wall is going to watch the staircase. The other 2 players are going to want to watch the front steps from the right, and that way you should be able to hold the room a-okay as the Genji is going to take out the sniper. Make sure the McCree player fights his urge the whole time to try to use his ultimate to take out the sniper. The McCree is never going to want to leave himself vulnerable whenever trying to get into the doorway, so make sure he tries his best to stay in the blind spot, and then we should be able to deal with that a-okay. Then we're going to move on to wave number 2. We're going to be dealing with 2 snipers in this wave, most likely. We have one right at the start, so make sure you have the Genji player quickly try to bait her onto one of those 2 pillars, and then quickly take her out before the crescendo of enemies can appear. Same strategy as last time. McCree is going to have his back towards the left side. Moira and Reaper are going to have their backs towards the right side. McCree is going to watch the staircase lane, and then everyone else is going to watch the front steps, as we are going to definitely want to defend the Genji as he slowly works on the sniper. So make sure you try to keep that in mind and try to get rid of her as quickly as possible, as she is going to be a really big problem once the room starts to get overrun. So hopefully you can get rid of her, and then we can get back onto the defense rather quickly and then hold the room back from the enforcers. McCree's stun grenades are going to be very useful here, and then once the sniper goes down, we are going to get back into our normal defense spots, and then we're going to keep an eye out for the second sniper that drops in towards the end of the wave. So everyone gets back onto defense right here, making sure they pick off the regular enemies. So just make sure you try to stick to your good old strategy, popping them from super far away, taking care of the bottleneck, and then just making sure we stick to our positions. If the room does get overrun, do take advantage of McCree's stun grenades, and then you also have Reaper's ultimate to fall back on if the room gets super overrun. But you should have no trouble holding this position, as we did the same thing for the first wave and had no trouble, and there shouldn't be any more specials, at least not till the end of the wave. Once we do get to the end of the wave, we are most likely going to be dealing with a second sniper. So for that, we're going to try to pull her to one of the two pillars. If you're playing with a really good Genji player and she happens to spawn on the opposite side of the map, you can also have the Genji move up to her and then try to use his deflect to clip her from across the map. Make sure you only do so if the board is going to be relatively cleared of the normal enemies, though. So once that Genji manages to take care of the second sniper, everyone's going to clear the rest of the normal enemies that are going to end up straggling along, and then everyone's going to bail on the Jesus room and then meet up at the top of the staircase on the right as we start the third and final wave. You're going to want to stay here until you get the little story beat in the character dialogue that the third wave is about to start. What's going to happen is everyone is going to jump over the guardrail, and then everyone's going to book it to the elevator room. Make sure everyone is all together and make sure everyone's at full health before you do make the journey, though, but everyone's going to try to get there as quickly as they can. Once everyone gets here, you are going to want to split into two groups, 2 people up top and then 2 people at the bottom of the staircase. You're going to have a dropship come in, and they're going to drop off a ton of enforcers who are going to storm the bottom of the elevator room. The people up top are going to fire down at the enforcers, and then everyone at the bottom is going to try to shoot them as they go through the door. You can also use the corner of the staircase to round them for a second bottleneck. Once the bottom gets too hectic, the 2 people on top are going to pull to the bottom as well, and they're going to help thin out that group. But you definitely want to get rid of that big group of enforcers the best you can, because they will give you a ton of trouble if left undealt with. Then the game is going to hand us another sniper spawn. You definitely want to have Moira hit her with her ultimate. It's going to have really good range on it, but you want to get rid of that sniper as quickly as possible, as we are going to have to deal with the heavy very soon. So just mop up the rest of the guys in the elevator room, and then make sure everyone keeps an eye out on the middle of the board for where the heavy drops. Once you notice where the heavy drops, you want to make sure you take action. Make sure everyone clusters up, and then everyone's going to book it back to the top of the staircase next to the Jesus room. We are going to start our loop for the heavy. Thankfully, on expert difficulty, you only have to deal with a single heavy. You don't have to deal with 2 of them like you do on legendary. So running the loop should be way easier, and then it's all a matter about trying to get this done without being too reckless. So we're going to hold our position at the top of the staircase, and then we're going to try to pull the heavy through. You're going to want to use your space on the staircase to try to land as much damage as you can on the heavy. So take advantage of everyone's ultimate here. If McCree is using his ultimate, try to get it off quicker. You don't want to hold it and then leave yourself out in the open. And then once the heavy starts making a push on the staircase, everyone's going to bail, jump over that guardrail, and then get back to the elevator room and then try to pull the heavy in this direction. Everyone's going to fire at him from the deck, and then he's going to be forced to take the staircase up. Then everyone can take this moment to heal up in the elevator room. Then you can make a stand at the top. Everyone's going to fire away, and then when it's time to make your grand escape, make sure you have the Genji player throw up deflect. Everyone's going to take the stairs down, up these stairs into the far elevator room. Then we're going to do the same thing at this position, so we're going to try to pull him through that previous elevator room. Everyone is going to want to shoot at him when he's between elevator rooms, and then once he gets too close for comfort, you're going to do the same escape plan. Make sure Genji throws up deflect, and then everyone's going to take the stairs down, and then everyone's going to get on to the docks right here. Then everyone's going to book it across, and then hit up the start of the loop. Remember, this area at the top of the staircase by the Jesus room is always going to be the reset point of the loop, because the heavy is only going to have 2 ways to get here, either through the restaurant in the middle or through the terrace of the restaurant up top. So make sure you take your time on the staircase, and then you have a bunch of opportunities to try to hit him as he tries to pick one of the 2 directions he can take. And then once things get too close for comfort, everyone over the guardrail, staircase up to the elevator room, and then just keep running this loop, and then just make sure you adjust it accordingly in case he does go off path. So if he does cut across the middle, for example, you can always reverse the loop, or you can try to cut the loop in half. As long as everyone stays together and you are trying to keep a reasonable distance from him, you should be able to loop him as long as you want. And because it's only a single heavy, you should be able to keep this up a-okay. Make sure you do mind the normal enemies whenever trying to cross between safe spots, though, because they can get you if you are low on health. So make sure you watch out for that whenever trying to transition between safe spots, and then just make sure you fire in on the heavy the best you can. You can try to bait the heavy into dashing. If he manages to miss his dash and clip the wall, he's going to get stunned for a bit, which is going to give you a bunch of time to try to damage him. Obviously, if you are going to try to do this, make sure you don't get too greedy, as we are trying to get this done without anyone dying. So make sure you don't mess it up for the rest of the team and just fall back onto the loop whenever necessary. It's better to take the slow and steady route to kill him. And that's going to be especially true on this mission where we don't have a time limit to deal with, so there is no need to be super reckless for no reason.
Get into position. Behind you. This will restore you. This will heal you. Allow me to repair the damage. Get into position. This will restore you. Allow me to repair the damage. Get into position. This will restore you.
So with enough patience and looping, you should be able to finally take out the heavy, and then once you do, everyone's going to heal up really quickly, and then everyone's going to book it to the top of the restaurant, and then everyone's going to hold their last spot at the terrace. There shouldn't be any more specials between now and when the dropship arrives, so everyone's just going to stay here. You should be able to keep everyone up, so Moira's going to want to try to heal everyone the best she can, make sure no one does anything really stupid, and then you should be able to hold this spot from all of the normal enemies. Make sure everyone gets onto the dropship once it opens up its doors. You can throw out your last few ultimates to celebrate, but once you make it onto that ship, mission complete without any deaths, you should be good for the achievement. 15 gamer score for this one, and that's all there is to it.